What does it take to get you fired from a concentration camp? No, seriously, imagine. You're working in hell on earth, directing the torture, execution, and extermination of people, and you're fired for excessive zeal. It's not ironic, it was a real case. Maximilian Grabner is on our agenda today. Not the most famous Nazi, but someone who was considered, even in the SS, well, overdoing it. A man who didn't just follow orders, but felt like he was getting the most out of the process. But what makes his story particularly interesting is not only the atrocities he committed at Auschwitz, but how at some point it all became too much, even for the Third Reich. The interrogations conducted by Grabner's staff, in particular Wilhelm Boger, were accompanied by systematic torture. The prisoners were beaten, their psyche and bones were broken, and then they were sent to the bunker of block number 11th. It was the last place they went to alive, and that's where the internal strife among the Nazis begins. The investigation, the arrest, and all this before the end of the war. Yes, it will be gloomy. Yes, it's going to be hard, but we will try to present it so that you don't fall asleep at the screen and escape to the nearest cat video. History must be remembered, even if it smells of sulfur and hypocrisy. Fasten your seatbelts. We're going to Auschwitz, into the very heart of the camp horror, but through the prism of one specific person, with a face, a surname, and unfortunately, career ambitions. Let's take a moment to remember what Auschwitz is all about. This is not just one camp, but a whole network of death camps. It was a factory for the destruction of people, according to all the rules of the bureaucracy, with lists, schedules, and even receipts for shipment to the gas chamber. Millions of dead, people from different countries, and all this with German pedantry. Auschwitz was divided into several parts: Camp 2, Birkenau, Camp 3, Monowitz. There were barracks, crematoriums, cells, and of course the political department, an internal punitive body that handled all special cases. And that's where our hero is shown today. So who is Maximilian Grabner? He was born in Vienna in 1905. No noble background, no dark occult sex, and never dreamed of conquering the world. A simple guy who worked as a lumberjack, yes, with a chainsaw through trees. Then he became a policeman in Austria. Everything seemed to be going along a simple path. In November 1939, Maximilian Grabner took up the post of criminal police secretary in the Katowice Gestapo. Already in May 1940, his career took off sharply. He became the head of the political department at the newly created Auschwitz concentration camp. The assignment seemed logical. The camp was located on the territory of his police district, and he knew what and how. However, his position was not as simple as it seems at first glance. Grabner found himself at the crossroads of two authorities. On the one hand, subordination to the camp commandant, discipline, bureaucracy, and camp daily routine. On the other hand, complete subordination to the Gestapo structures. His real bosses were not those who commanded in the barracks, but those who sat in the offices in Berlin and Katowice. What was Grabner's job description? Almost everything related to internal control, combating escapes and attempts to communicate with the outside world, suppressing the slightest signs of resistance, maintaining dossiers on prisoners, coordinating correspondence with other departments of the Gestapo, the criminal police, and of course, with the General Directorate of Imperial Security, the RSHA. Grabner was not just a performer. He actively participated in the repression, sitting in military field and police courts where the fate of prisoners was discussed, often in the presence of his immediate superior, the chief of the Gestapo, Rudolf Mildner. What was happening on his orders? Grabner's staff, including the well-known Wilhelm Boger, conducted interrogations, during which torture became not the exception, but the norm. Confessions were knocked out, destinies were broken, and after the interrogation, there was only one way: to the bunker of block number 11, where the prisoner was waiting for a punishment cell, solitary confinement, darkness, and eventually death. But that's not all. Together with the camp security chief, Schutzhaftlager, Grabner organized the so-called bunker purges. This is a euphemism for a cruel practice. Prisoners were taken out of the block and shot in the courtyard between blocks 10 and 11, at the Black Wall, without a trial, without explanation. It's simple, at the discretion of the authorities. The scariest thing is how well he deceived people before he died. Before the Jews were sent to the gas chamber, Grabner went on the stage with a prepared speech. He assured people that a sauna was waiting for them, then food, and after that, a job assignment. Some even rejoiced that everything was ending with the camp routine. People took off their clothes, put them in neat piles, and went to the camera. It was cold-blooded. It was planned. It was disgustingly effective, and he was proud of it. In 1942, Maximilian received the second-degree Military Merit Cross with swords, and not for participating in battles or outstanding strategic achievements. Most likely, he received the award for his productivity in terms of executions and the organization of internal control of the camp. Apparently, in the Nazi system, this was considered valor. As they say, abomination is also a KPI. This is where the twist begins, which could become the script for an absurd drama. In 1943, Grabner was arrested. No, not partisans, not Reds, not allies. He is arrested by his own people on the orders of SS Judge Conrad Morgan. The reason? Grabner arbitrarily shot 2,000 people without an order from above. It turns out that mass murder is okay, but according to the instructions, and self-activity is foo-foo-foo. That's terrible, Maximilian. We didn't agree on that. He is being tried in Weimar. The charges are arbitrary executions, corruption and abuse of authority. The prosecutor demands 12 years in prison, not the death penalty. It's just 12 years old. But then the bureaucracy intervenes. Heinrich Müller, the Gestapo chief, refuses to cooperate. The case freezes. And then, bam! And Grabner is working for the Gestapo again. First in Katowice, then in Breslau. It was as if nothing had happened. It's like 2,000 corpses is a misunderstanding at a corporate party. After the end of the war, when many Nazi figures began to turn into farmers, monks, shepherds, and generally just Gunther from a neighboring village, Maximilian Grabner also decided to play I Wasn't Here. He fled to the countryside near Vienna, where he got a job as a servant on a farm. Such a downshifting according to the SS version. But as they say, karma has not forgotten. He was tracked down by Soviet investigators and arrested on August 4th, 1945. And the irony of fate is that the interrogation was conducted by a former prisoner of Auschwitz, Heinrich Durmeyer. He had gone through the hell of the camp himself, and now he was sitting on the other side of the table, looking into the eyes of the man who had once administered camp justice. Just imagine, a man who went through torture and gas chambers now holds a dossier on his former executioner. It's not even a movie. This is a real slap in the face to a system that seemed eternal. In 1946, while in prison, Grabner suddenly declared, "I participated in the murder of 3 million people just because of my family's attitude. I've never been an anti-Semite." Well, what can I say? It is very convenient to be an executioner for family reasons. And it's too late to try to find humanity when you have thousands of ruined lives on your hands. It didn't matter to the court, of course. In July 1947, Grabner was extradited to Poland, where the first Auschwitz trial took place, a mass trial of crimes committed in the camp. On December 22, 1947, the Supreme National Tribunal in Krakow sentenced Grabner to death by hanging. And this was the case when the verdict was perceived not as revenge, but as a tiny act of justice, as huge as it is possible for a person who gave the order to kill thousands of others. On January 28, 1948, the sentence was carried out in Montelupich prison, in the same place where hundreds of Polish prisoners were previously imprisoned, who were sent to Auschwitz on the orders of Grabner himself. If you've watched it up to this point, thank you. Stories like this are hard to take in, but without them, you can't understand what a person is capable of, and why it's so important never to repeat it. Please like it if historical content is important to you, and subscribe to the channel so that we can continue to explore such topics. Honestly, without pathos, but also without embellishment. And if you want to support us, a comment or a repost will be the best way to say, do more.